Hello guys and welcome to the channel. This is Baby Roll and we are finally here looking at the new weapons that coming for Ranger. So since AreaNet started the new mini expansion style, like Secret of the Obscure being the first, there is no longer elite specialization while we be getting new weapons. We have known every weapons that come in with every class, and we have known that Ranger will have dual wielding maces, main hand and off hand. We didn't know what role it's gonna fill and how it's gonna work, what's gonna be range, melee, condition, power, hybrid. We didn't really know how it's gonna work. And they started with Ranger to give us the first clue on how it's gonna look. Now, also know that there will be a beta on November 28th starting at 8 AM Pacific time, and it will end on December 3rd, so be sure to be there and experience for yourself and test all the weapons for all the classes. And also, those weapons will work with any elite specialization, not specific one. Since we got Weapon Master training in Secret of the Obscure, meaning the maces will work with Core Ranger, Druid, Untamed, Soulbeast, and everything. So AreaNet chose the Ranger to be the first that they share with us, and also put a video showing the skills use of the maces. And we also know now what role the mace will fill. So main hand and off hand synergize very well, they work very well together and really push this mace style, to the point that you will be really weakening yourself if you take one of them, which is something to consider, because of the stacking effect that they give you that called nature strings, and we're gonna explain everything right now. So the main hand is basically focusing on healing and boons while doing damage. Both weapons it seems to do only power damage, no condition, nothing else. So it's gonna be melee weapons with power, boons, healing, some crowd control and CC in general. The main hand is gonna be boons, healing and damage, while the offhand having some survivability aspect while also crowd control. Both weapons probably accept the auto attack unless the last thing of the chains will give it or something like that, but generally will give you stacks of something called nature strengths with different condition or how it will apply on every skill, but it seems to be on every skill. That's how it will look. So once you reach 6 stacks of nature strengths, you will get something called Force of Nature as an effect, and this effect will reset your mace cooldown skills, not sure by how much, they just tell us that. Your character will grow larger, increasing outgoing damage, healing, and giving you stability. So it seems like a very good effect, but obviously, like I said, if you're running one mace, like offhand only in a build when you more focus on damage, or trying to make a condition build with axe or dagger for example, then it's going to be much slower when you get the 6 stacks. So it really pushing you in order to use either 2 maces as the best option, or at least really focus on power or support builds, which is something that will fill a gap in Rangers that we get into it in a second. And they also talking a bit about how the lore work in general in it, or role playing if you like to say. You will blister your bond with the land, gaining a new effect, nature strings, and when you finally get the effect, they say the ground will give you its favor, stuff like that. Now let's talk about the skills themselves. They shared only a description of 2 skills, the skill 2 on the mace and the skill 4, as to see how the support style work on the mace 2 and how the control and survivability work and the offhand, like the main hand and the offhand. So for mace 2 it's the skill called Flourish, and it will damage the enemy while healing allies at the same time. You actually strike the ground, causing the ground beneath you to swell. It's basically, think of it like the symbol on Mace 2 for Guardian, for example. And the ground will swell with energy. And after a delay, the ground will burst. And you can see this skill applied in the video they released when it bursts with this leaves blowing everywhere. The burst deal heavier damage and heal more than the initial strike. If you hit an enemy with the initial strike, not the second one, you will gain nature strength. Like I said, different rules in how you apply nature strengths, but it's gonna apply at some point from any skill. While the offhand skill 4 is actually a defensive one, it's called Cecil Guard. They describe it as rewarding the timing in the thick of combat. It's quite time sensitive. You cover yourself with a bramble armor, gaining barrier and stability for a moment as thorns strike outward. Hitting the enemy with those thorns will increase the defensive component of these skills while also granting you nature strength. So if the second part of this skill hit, like actually you damage the enemy, so nature strings always have something to do with actually landing a hit. It seems like not something you will do on yourself and actually given it, like the barrier or stuff. And it will increase defensive component, which I guess the barrier will be for more. I'm not sure it will increase the duration for stability, for example. I think it's only the barrier will be giving you more. And we have seen this multiple times in the game in general, when you can get an effect for targets or even on a target cap. For every target you hit, get more barrier. We've seen it on Hammer for Ranger, for example. They didn't tell us that actually the throne will give any form of crowd control, so this is a defensive part, which make me think that skill 5 is the crowd control. And inside the video you see a skill when he jump and the enemy will end up stopping, like it have been dazed. The animation look like the enemy have been dazed, maybe stunned, but I think it's dazed or something like that. And in the video they show us all the skills. So first let me say that this fill in a role that Ranger didn't have and can affect the build that we have right now. For example, support druid, when you run a strike or any group content, used to have staff for support in general, for healing, but not other weapon. So you run warhorn for offhand, for extra boons, some CC, and you run axe, dagger, sword, whatever in main hands. It's actually not useful at all for a support build, waiting to switch weapon, waiting for 60 avatar. And the same problem suffered from as healing untamed, that actually use like double staff or stuff like that. While now you will have maces to have CC, barrier, boons, other heal sources, and you can switch between two weapons, which is very good. So this one giving you a weapon that focus a little bit on survivability, also maybe the barrier and stuff, because we only had something like greatsword with a dodge and block. There was no other option, even if you want for survivability and pure damage build still, while higher survivability for roaming, for whatever, or if you wanted a support style. What it will not fulfill is any rules that really count on condition, unless you can find a place for it as just for the boon and survival, like for roaming, like the offhand mace for example. And you will not find usefulness if you want range, because the weapon seem to be melee. And the jumps and stuff and the distance of some of the skills on it mimic a little bit of the mace on engineer, as you can see, with the jump and hit. One here was actually range, that you can target an enemy to launch it forward, and the melee attacks was doing multiple things, giving you damage, explosion, and condition. I like the mace on engineer very much, because it is quite hybrid. It can still give you some condition, it do everything. They went safe with it. Power damage exists, condition damage exists, support and barrier exists, CC exists, all that on only 3 skills. So I hope when we see the actual application of the skills on Ranger, it will help be put on more builds than actually it seems, but it's already good. It's already giving you other options, other styles in many builds that already exist, like Druid, like Power Untamed, even Soulbeast, giving you a bit of tankiness, not counting only on the bit. So it might be very well, I hope it will be well received and actually good. And AreaNet is playing with this, or going with this approach, is actually trying to fulfill gaps. So even if the mace doesn't fulfill everything, even if it doesn't offer you condition option or stuff, it fulfills a gap that existed in support and defensive abilities and stuff like that in the weapon kits that we have, even for power builds. And they're doing the same with Mesmer and Warrior. It's confirmed that the rifle for Mesmer and the staff for Warrior are support weapons. So it's something that the class or in general lacks and can't fulfill without it. So it's not different choices for weapons that doing the same thing. It is actually a new choice. And now let's look at the video and go through the skill with each other. I'm gonna go with slow motion to comment and explain the skills. And as you can see here, it starts with bear casting and the ranger casting. I'm not sure why the bear is part of it. I don't think it's mean anything. The ranger casts skill 4 because you see the yellow hue on it, and I think this is a barrier as they explained. For the armor, they say, I don't see any animation besides some leaves in the air, so I'm not very sure about it. This jump, I think it is skill 2 with the blow in the ground, because we see this blistering effect with the leaves and flowers is the second effect they told was the higher damage in here. I think this is a normal dodge, and the second jump, I think it is skill 5, because we can see the enemy is being CC'd, like dazed or stunned, it's stuck in animation. Some few normal attacks, and then I think it casts skill 4 again. And I think this is a skill 3, multiple hits with higher damage that actually Ranger apply. They explain that the offhand is the one with the CC, so it has to be that the barrier casted and the stun or daze we have seen is actually skill 5. So now we have seen auto attacks, we have seen skill 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the video. So if you have anything else, tell me in the comment. If you think I missed anything or you have any information, just drop it in the comments and tell me what you think. Be sure to be there for the beta and keep an eye for other posts for other classes that you're interested in. I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.